Here's three things that you need to know about building your speaking career as a social worker that you might be overlooking. Let's go. Tap in with me. What's up, world? It's your boy Trey Retro _GT back for another episode of the G.Taylor Show. Hope that your week was well. Holidays were amazing, and preparing for the Christmas holidays. If you celebrate, it has been a journey and a half, especially if you got children and you're dealing with Elf on the Shelf for that reason, right? Thank you for everybody who like, share, subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. Please continue to share with folks. Let folks know about our platform, what we're talking about, what we're doing. And if it resonates with you, then definitely continue to share with somebody as well. I wanted to come on here real quick, man, to do a one-off episode because it's been on my heart and mind for the last few weeks, because I just been thinking about just the way of the world, what the social work profession is going through, my students, my supervisees, what's next for these next stages of next 4 years, I would say, for our new president coming in back into office, and how social workers need to position themselves, right? And so I get a lot of, questions, DMs, messages about, hey, Trey, like, how can I, diversify my business? How can I diversify the work that I do as a social worker? How can I get into speaking engagements? How can I get into workshop proposals? How can I, do something that is different than just the regular everyday, therapy models, right? And so I said, you know what? Well, I think I'm gonna do something next year where I'm gonna launch me a brand or business. Well, I'm already a brand business, but like launch me a model that we will discuss all of that. But let's start it out. Let's see what happens. Let's see how folks respond, because I'm getting a lot of these questions a lot of times, right? And I think as we go forward in the next few years, if not next 4 or 5, but the next 10 to 15, that we need to position and equip social workers to be more than just your case managers, your therapists, or your mental health practitioners, right? And this episode can go for any type of mental health practitioner, not just social workers related, but, I will be specifically talking to social workers because we do have a unique set of skills that can build us some side hustles, get us some extra income, but also diversify our actual day-to-day activities. Because a lot of times that lack of diversity, that lack of creativity, that lack of ambiguity and schedule, in a sense, does lead to burnout, right? Leads to burnout and, moral injury, compassion fatigue, all of these different things that we as social workers are so closely, aligned with and understand. It's something that we want to, look at how we can diversify ourselves. And we have a bunch of different skill sets that we can teach, we can give to the community, and we can package up as ways to do just that. But we forget about them. And also sometimes we think that nobody wants to hear them, nobody wants to learn about them, or that they're so basic or so, kind of the run-of-the-mill type skills that we don't think is pertinent, right? But again, as social workers, we need to get continuing education credits. Or for license, we get CEs. We got to renew every year. So we need to continue to sharpen our skills. That's part of our code of ethics. And that's part of being a social worker, is in continue to engage in scientific inquiry, continue to engage in a lifelong commitment of learning. That is something that I teach my supervisees, but also my students as well. And that's no different from us as seasoned social workers. So let's hop into it. Think about all the theories and models that you've been taught in your social work profession, from grad school, maybe undergraduate, all the way into the stuff that you've learned as continuing education credits, the trainings, the things of that nature, right? You need to think about something that you are really invested in, something that you really like to do, or that you practice by, right? And engage with on a daily basis, that like the back of your hand. And that is where you can become an expert in that, right? That could be CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, solution focused therapy, systems theory, ecological theory, environmental theory. intersection theory, EMDR, right? Like all of these evidence-based interventions that we've been taught over the last, maybe 5 to 10 years of our career is something that we can, end up doing speaking engagements on, workshops on, training agencies, training groups of individuals, making a continuing education credit. You can do all of that. Maybe you have a favorite intervention that whatever population that you work with has worked well with this said population. That is an opportunity to build that out, learn about it, and build it out into a workshop or a speaking engagement, right? So these are different topics, right, that you can think about, right? You also need to think about how do you get into the speaking space. Find local agencies, community groups who are looking for speakers. So you need to market yourself, right? You need to put yourself out there, not just within the social media sphere, but then also in your community. Hey, I'm a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm here to, I'm going to talk about mental health, generic mental health, right? Or whatever population that you, engage with. I'm very passionate about Black men and mental health. So I'm going to seek out organizations who are working with Black men or Black boys and Black teens and say, hey, I do conversations about, Black men and mental health. Let's set something up. Now, you're not always going to obviously get paid for it. I didn't start out getting paid. A lot of speakers didn't start out getting paid, but it is a way to get your foot in the door to get started. I am an advocate for getting paid for these services and our expertise because we do have a lot of schooling and expertise around that. So you want to identify a specific intervention, something that needs to be refreshed or something that you like working with or using with your said population. And you also need to identify a population that you literally like to work with, or it doesn't have to be a population. You can do something generic. And then you need to go around in your community and locate those said agencies or people who do that work with them. And that could be therapists, that could be other mental professionals, that could be healthcare, that could be nonprofit, that can be community, things of that nature. If they're not in your community, look outside of your community, right? Look in your state, look in the neighboring states, look at those different places, right? That's where you're going to figure out, okay, I can offer my expertise on this. I can offer my expertise in that for this event coming up. Sometimes these community groups throw mental health events and they don't have licensed or certified or subject matter experts in this field that they're talking about. So if you like working in mental health and you've been in this space for a while, you can just go and share general information. That is always going to be needed in the community. People still need to be educated about mental health. Very ground level, you think that somebody might not benefit from it, but a basic mental health one-on-one is a great starting point for anybody that wants to get into the speaking and facilitating workshop role, because mental health is evolving so fast that we can't keep up with it. People still don't know what's going on. People still don't understand it fully. It has come a long way, I will agree, with different agencies, but in the psychoeducation out there, but it's still, places that, areas that it's a lot of misinformation. So that could be where you can, tap in with, right? And so identifying that, locking that down, seeing what's out there around you, reaching out, do your due diligence on social media, network, put yourself out there, and then, reach out and see what happens. Sometimes it might be paid, sometimes it's not. Eventually you want to build up to getting paid, but see what happens as we go forward. Okay. Secondly, all right, so you found a spot, you found an intervention or something that you wanted to talk about that you specialize in or you think is beneficial. You may have identified a population that you want to work with, right? Or you just want to do something maybe more general, right? And then you found an agency or community group, right, to do so. And so you're going to have to determine if you're doing a speaking thing where you're just going up speaking about it, or if you're facilitating a workshop, right? And a lot of times, they'll tell you if they want you to do a 30, 45-minute speech or a 1 hour thing, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever. And you start to do that. I will say for workshops, if you start getting into 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you have no choice but to charge. I'm sorry. And if they're not willing to pay your rate, or whatever you come up with, then that's on them. But once you start getting into the facilitation of workshops, you should be charging. I'm just saying, regardless of, I don't care what the amount is. That's time, effort, experience, slide decks, things of that nature. So You get there, you lock down somebody, you want to pitch to them. You want to at least give them your information. You want to tell them your credentials. You want to tell them what you do. Once people know what you do, they're going to probably reach out to you, right? And so you want to just sell yourself. And I know a lot of times it's hard for us to sell ourselves, or we like to dim all of the experience and things that we have done. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't know everything that we do. We do a lot. We do a lot. And if you start looking at your CV or your resume, you start looking back at your experience, if you really break it down by job duties, job experiences, any community volunteer programs, leadership, things of that nature, then you're going to see how much work you have really done in this profession and what you really can do and not do. So I encourage you to look at that, right? But then I also encourage you to do stuff that you're comfortable working in, that you feel like you're an expert in as well, right? And so you want to pitch yourself. You want to market yourself to that person. You want to have a card. You want to have maybe a digital card. I carry digital cards where instead of me just giving a card in hand, I know a lot of people like to do that. I have a little QR code. You scan it and you get all my information, emails, websites, social medias, all that, so you can reach back and forth. And when you do that, you can always send an email follow up to say, hey, such, I met you this time at this event, just following up to see if you still need that speaker or that facilitator for your said, agency, your workshop, your community group, your fundraiser event, things of that nature. That's what you want to do, right? You want to market, you want to sell yourself, y'all. Don't sell yourself short. We have a unique skill set, social workers, that can put us in different types of rooms. It does not always have to be, I was doing one workshop before, I don't always try to sell myself to mental health agencies or social work agencies. I try to look at different avenues or different areas of discipline, technology, business, community groups, right? They might be activating or doing things in different areas that has nothing to do with mental health, but they need to have the support of mental health for their employees, or looking at trauma-informed ways on how to address certain communities, right? How to engage Black men in academia, in the community, in the barbershop, things that nature, right? I think I did one speaking engagement with George Mason School of Engineering, with their engineering program, things like that. That's things that you can tap into that does not actually always necessarily have to be our silo, right? Get outside of your own silo. Look outside of your agencies if you want to. Market to those places as well. But once you lock down a place, sell yourself, right? And I'm not saying overly sell yourself. You don't have to, but highlight the things that they possibly might be looking for. Hey, I'm a licensed social worker, or I'm a subject matter expert in this intervention. Would love to come, speak to your group, your agency, your community about mental health. Love to come speak to them about trauma-informed care. Love to come speak to them about anxiety and depression. Love to come speak to them about, cognitive behavioral therapy, group therapy. Like, you can take the things that we see as this kind of the basic foundational skills and take them to the community, into the world, and utilize them to build something that you want to build out. All right. Sell yourself. Now, you've done all that. You've identified your population, identified the thing you want to utilize. You tapped in with something that you want to do. You found a place, the agencies, or groups that you want to work with now, and you started to sell yourself, right? And so I'll do a separate thing on negotiation or just charging your rates or whatever. That's a whole separate conversation, because then that's probably the next step. Is like, what about charging my rates? What should I charge? How should I go about charging? We'll talk about that. And I've talked about that in a previous episode prior. You want to go back and look at some of the past episodes of my podcast about talking about how you go about charging, right? Because that's a process. Everybody's process is different. I will say to this is that it's okay to start small, but as you grow, your charging rate should increase. And again, that might differ between speakers and, workshops, keynotes, things of that nature. That might differ between 30, 45 minute, an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, a panel, things like that. So once you get a few speaking engagements under your belt and you start to feel like what's comfortable for you, then you can kind of, create an actual charge sheet for yourself, or a speaker charge sheet, speaker fee sheet that you could just map out for yourself, to give you as a guide. Or if you are working with an agency, you can give to them and they can kind of determine what they want to work with you on as well. But I'll do a whole nother episode on that to kind of, go over what that looks like. Right. But lastly, so you did all that, you market yourself, you identify yourself, you market yourself, and then you sold yourself, and you sell your services, sell your skill set, things that like that, right? That happen. And so now it's time for you to go and do your thing, right? Again, if you want to go and speak about this certain, intervention, this certain historical thing, trauma informed care, working with this said certain population or group, best practices and interventions that work with said population and group, it all depends, right? You want to take that thing, that first one that you land, and you should rinse and repeat that, right? What does that mean? You should be taking that actual speaking topic or that workshop, and you should do that probably 5 to 10 times, if not 15 times, 20 times. Like, rinse and repeat that actual workshop or speaking topic until it opens up other areas, right? Or if you just want to stay in that and you want to branch off of it, that's cool. But it should be, you should, repetition, right, is how we learn. Repetition is how we get better, right? So you should be, doing this multiple times to get acclimated to the topic, the flow of the workshop, engaging with the crowds and participation, case studies, research to support it, things of that nature. You just want to continue to get familiar with it. You continue to get familiar with it. And it's okay to keep using it because you're going to hopefully engage with different audiences. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to use the same thing over and over again. I feel like I'm stagnant. No, one, you haven't really mastered that actual topic or that workshop just yet, right? And two, if you're pitching out to different areas and audiences, you're going to have a different audience in each space. So your audience are going to continue to change. So my audience, even though I've been talking about engaging Black men in therapy and social work, my audience has shifted for like the last 2 years between, local mental health agencies, school of social works, academia, national organization groups, things of that nature, more silo community groups or organizations. And so its audience has always changed. And sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's virtual. And so the virtual dynamics go different than in-person dynamics, right? I have a set way of how I facilitate in person than what I would do virtually, right? Because you have to plan for all that. So rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm not even gonna give you, I'm gonna take back what I said about 5, 10 times, 15, 20 times. I would say do it for a year. Keep pitching that same topic or same area that you want to talk about for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, until you feel like it's ran its course and you either, expand off of it or you try to look into another area of focus that you want to focus in on. But sometimes we get into these spaces where, and I do it all the time, I'll get into doing one thing and feeling like, man, I'm just doing it over and over and over and over again. It's not getting nowhere, or I feel like it's not getting nowhere. But then somebody will come tell me, hey, man, I learned so much from this your speaking engagement on this topic or this workshop on this topic. It's been an amazing thing. Thank you for that feedback, or thank you for talking to us about that. So those things come in waves, but you gotta stick with it, and you have to put yourself in the place of not just being the just facilitating and talking about it, but you gotta know that thing in and out. You gotta know that topic in and out. You gotta know that workshop in and out. You have to be able to almost, when you facilitate and do it, you're able to not premeditate, but you're able to think about or know the questions that may come from the audience before they are even asked, because you've done it so much. So then you already prepared for an answer to answer that question versus stumbling over your answer or trying to go back through your notes or trying to figure out. No, like that's where the repetition comes in, that you know it right offhand. You know what questions are going to be asked. Then you might start adding to the workshop or to the slides or to the content so that it answers the question in the presentation, right? But again, don't abandon the actual thing that's the bread and butter, right? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat until you become a master of that actual topic or workshop. And that's going to take you, take you a long way into your speaking career. And then hopefully, workshops and things of that nature. So that's what I would want to say for that. We'll get into the whole conversation about charging in another time, but hey, identify intervention, identify population, identify maybe possible intervention that works well with the population that you are interested in, or do something generic like mental health class 101. Do that. Secondly, identify agency, group, or a business that you want to work with. If they do something closely aligned with what you're doing, or they got a fundraiser or event going on, offer your time and services, right? Boom, do that. And then after that, you do that, offer time, services, market, and sell yourself. And then 3, take that time, rinse and repeat. Do the same thing over and over and over and over again for at least 1, 2, 3 years till you become a master in that content area, master in your facilitating, your speaking, and, your awareness, things of that nature, so you can know it and have it down pat, right, each and every time. And then move on, build from there, or go from there. It's just that simple. We just make it too complex a lot of times, right? And people need to hear from us, especially us who are subject matter experts, who've worked in the profession, who've done the work, who've been doing it for, umpteenth years. That's what needs to happen. All right. So make sure you like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Let me know if you got any questions. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this with somebody. Let them know about it. And then we'll continue this series. We'll see how this series goes, see what happens, and we'll take it from there, man. Want you all, after this episode right now, I want you to go ahead, write down 3 areas or 3 topics that you want to start speaking on, start, doing possibly a workshop on. I want you to go ahead and start that right now. After you cut this episode off, write down your pen and paper, or if you like me, put it in your phone. These are the 3 areas I want to speak on. These are the 3 areas I want to, talk about. And then I want you to reach out to 3 agency, community groups, people that have a business or have an agency that do work or similar to the things that you want to talk about, and reach out to them. And lastly, I want you to sell yourself and hopefully land one of your first speaking engagements. All right. And if you do that and you follow that path, let me know so we can celebrate you. All right. Take care. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.